Hey, what's going on there, folks? How's everyone doing? We made it out here to a Friday. It is the Earthmaster out here, March 22nd, 2024. It's about 11:32 a.m. here, California time. Friday, goodness. All right, latest activity on the globe looks like a 3.1 into the Alaska area in the green flag. But if you notice, we did have some larger scale activity last night, and we are kind of chatting about this, how we were looking at an advancement here across the Java Trench. Well, that kind of kicked off here in a big way with a 6.4 earthquake coming in just a couple hours after the update last night, about 2 o'clock my time here along the west coast into the Java Sea area. That pretty decent size earthquake. Now, I think it was about the 5.6 or so. We've seen some very shallow earthquake activity out here during the update last night. That definitely advanced overnight with that larger scale movement. We don't really see a whole lot of shallow earthquake activity out here, specifically in this region. Most of the time we'll notice it further upstream to where the subduction zone area takes place. I'll show you guys here on the map these dark circles representative of deep earthquakes below 300 kilometers there. And that's why it was kind of weird seeing that 5-pointer even up at the surface levels here. Most of the time it'll be further upstream in the white circle range. That's where we see a lot of the built up surface quakes taking place, deeper quakes down into the subduction zone of the Java Trench. But a little bit different story out here. I think we've seen at least a couple earthquakes here that are shallow historically in the white circles, but I believe this is the biggest one in this area at the surface regions, at least as far as historical data goes across this area of the Java Sea. So some interesting activity taking place out there. There in the Java Sea, very shallow earthquake activity, 8.5 kilometers deep once again. Obviously away from the population density, which is good, or population areas, which is good. No tsunami with this. And it does look like we did see another aftershock there, a 4.5. Now, if you look on the globe here, there's obviously way more than just 5 earthquakes listed in this area. There's a decent amount, right? Looks like quite a few 3s and 4s stirring up there as well. So that's with the EMSC model here on the globe. So continue to watch this area. Good possibility here that this region upstream might be strained as well. I mean, it's a little odd seeing some shallow earthquake activity out here across this region. All right, let's see what else we got overnight here, see if anything else has popped off. It does look like things got more active across the area around New Zealand and the Kermadec Trench here. Couple earthquakes out there after midnight. Looks like 4.8 down here along the plate boundary of New Zealand. That's one of the more larger ones here that we've seen in a little bit. They've seen a lot of 3s out here, a lot of 2s, deeper regions of the Hikurangi subduction zone here underneath North Island recently. But definitely still seeing some activity stirring up out here. This one, again, further south, just off of the plate boundary here for a 4.8 near, well, it's a ways away from Arthur's Point, New Zealand area. 5.6 kilometers deep. So let me run over real quick and check out the GeoNet servers. See if there's anything interesting going on there aside from that little, well, I can't really call it a little quake. It's a decent quake. These guys are reporting it as a 5.6. That's a huge difference in magnitudes. So let's see what's going on. They're stating a 5.6. That's from the GeoNet servers. USGS reporting that as a 4.8. Man, that is a wide range of error, depending on who's right, who's wrong in this case. So we'll go with the latest run auto. Let me just check the map here and see how many people felt it. That gives us a good indicator of how strong the earthquake is. And it looks like quite a few folks way up in the North Island area felt this earthquake as well. So more than likely this was a 5.6 with this total tally of 1,559 reports coming in here. Mostly light to moderate shaking. Again, it was felt up there in the North Island area. Another way to tell far as the magnitudes go is a look at the earthquake seismograph drums. At 5.6 should show up pretty nicely across the entire area. Of course, as you get closer here to the South Island area, that earthquake becomes more prominent on the graphs, and it's split between a little time frame here. So this is the first reading of it, and then followed by the ending of that quake. Definitely, yeah, I would say it's above a 5 as far as looking at these graphs go. North Island area definitely picking it up as well. So, yeah, a little bit of activity out there today. Some further movement upstream here around North Island area in a specific spot. Looks like a little swarm going on here just outside the Wellington area. Let's see here. This is just a weird thing. I think it's this area right here, right? Or maybe a little bit closer to the region. Either way, a little bit of swarming going on out here in this specific area. New Zealand's one of the ones that got to watch because it sits on a major plate boundary out here. And we've seen, at least over the last month or so, we've seen a lot of adjustment north and south here of the area with very minimal movement in terms of decent activity. We've seen a whole bunch of deep quakes underneath the North Island area recently, and a handful of surface adjustment quakes as well. But this would make it the 5.6. I mean, that's kind of the strongest one that we've seen out here in a little bit. But this whole area is definitely capable of producing something much bigger than a 5.6. But for now, that's what is coming in there. Take your pick, 4.8 from the USGS or 5.6 from the GeoNet servers, the ones that actually monitor the data down there. All right, overnight as well, looks like we did see a 4.7 here along the Kermadec Islands area, Kermadec Trench, 333 in the morning, goodness. And another 4.8 further upstream at 42 kilometers deep. So this quake came in, it looks like just after this 4.7, a little bit further up north along the Kermadec Trench. So we'll continue to watch that. Yeah, because this activity came in following that movement way over here, this 6.4. Still looking at a pretty decent gap here between the Fiji area and the Solomon Islands. Not really seeing a whole lot of earthquake activity here. It does look like there's a 4.9 older quake there from last night. But speaking from, from watching this zone a lot, in terms of earthquake activity, this region has been awfully quiet, and it's normally at least seeing quite a few 4s and 5s here on any given day, but it's been very quiet here, so we'll continue to watch that. New Zealand itself, again, quite a bit of movement stirring up out here in the last 24 hours. We'll continue to watch that for some advancement. Definitely looks like it's trying to down there. 4.4 up around the Japan area. There's that super deep quake there from yesterday into the Sea of Osk area. It's going to be this quake right here. 460 kilometers deep for that 4.1 from yesterday. It does look like we've seen, let's see here, where's our newer one? Well, it doesn't look like we've seen too much further activity in that zone. Most of the time we'll notice at least some type of surface adjustment take place following deeper quakes in this area, but nothing. The Aleutian Trench, quite a few 4s up there it looks like overnight. And from yesterday as well, that's going to be this handful of earthquakes here. One from yesterday and one from today. A couple 4s up there, nothing big going on. This is very common across the Aleutian Trench. As far as the states go, the Pacific Northwest, relatively quiet. Got another storm coming in up there. Got more rain coming into California as well. The Bay Area of the San Francisco area. Got, looks like a handful of quakes, including a 2.6 out here around the Concord area, Walnut Creek area. That is off of the Concord Fault, it looks like. Quite a few fault systems through the Bay Area. Very hazardous in terms of potential damage area. But right now, just limited activity. 2.1 on the San Andreas Fault there just outside the San Francisco area as well. So slight uptick today in that region. A little spike of an earthquake there around the Shandon area, 1.4. Southern California area, really not seeing anything in terms of major activity. Just a handful of smaller quakes here, which is very typical. I mean, 39 earthquakes, it's very typical here for this area. Now, if we had seen 39 earthquakes above 2.5, then we would be looking at some elevated activity. But this is a very small microquake movement with really nothing of interest currently there in Southern California. Yellowstone National Park, nothing showing up there, but I do want to double check the events. This right here, this little reading that showed up across many other seismograph stations right there, is going to be that 6.4 there in the Java Sea area from this morning. It matches up with the time frame. It matches up as a distant earthquake reading there on the graph, so that's not localized to that area. But again, it just goes to show you how sensitive this equipment can be, picking up very minimal ground movements, but even thousands and thousands of miles away, it can pick up a reading. As far as any local earthquake activity, I'm really not seeing anything there across Yellowstone National Park. Most of this activity from yesterday around the Oklahoma area. States look, I mean, for the most part, fairly quiet out there. Around the Puerto Rico Trench, fairly quiet as well. Only a couple twos there in the last 24 hours. That's some older quake activity there. Looks like the Atlantic Ocean is getting more active out here in the divergent zones. That could ultimately have an effect on the current ongoing eruption activity across Iceland. Could continue it, or potentially maybe even get up a little bit more active in that area. Let's go see what's going on there across the Iceland area for now. This is live from Iceland.is, and taking a look at the live webcam view. Still shows, well, they at least have two active vents here on this webcam. Not for sure exactly on the other ones. Let's see what we got. It does look like it's stretching across a couple different areas here. Now, compared to yesterday, it does look just slightly lower in terms of the amount of fountaining going on and the height of these fountainings going on here across the area. So slightly less. Let me go over and check out, see what's going on here across the area of Iceland. This was put out today. It looks like increased risk due to gas pollution. That's going to be the volcanic gases there around the area. It's been constant, right? Like day number 6, I believe, or maybe even day number 7 here of the ongoing eruption there across the area northeast of Grindavik. Let's see, constant between days. There is little or no seismic activity in or around the magma, the areas below. Deformation in the shape of the landscape in the area of the Svartsengi has been extremely mild since the magma flow took place, and the eruption began back on the 16th. So, yeah, we're looking at 6 days now. Goodness. This mainly indicates that the magma is less concentrated in the magma chamber under the Svartsengi and flows directly out from that region to the surface through the vents. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Depending we don't get any blockage or anything down below, we could see this thing go on and on and on for a while. Here's the updated hazard map, it looks like. It's kind of a bigger map. Let me tone this down slightly. Oh, this is in Icelandic here. It still looks like the main area is going to be the Zone 3 up here. Perfect time for a train to run on by, right? Why not? You ever see those people that got a train horn built into their vehicle like a truck or a car? That can be a little hazardous and dangerous out there. People do that. But That's what it sounds like. Someone's outside my house with a train horn on occasion. Let's go over and check out the English version real quick here. See if they've updated that. I think they have here. Does look like it. All right. A little bit easier to read. Well, maybe not. What's going on here? We're still live. No, what's going on? Huh. That map's not working for some reason. Not for sure why, but doesn't look like that's up and running. This current, this does look fairly current here. Looks like we've got a switcheroo of the wind out of the north now. Over the past couple days, it had been out of the south and then out of the west, shooting over here a little bit. But it does look like this north wind is taking all that volcanic gases offshore now. But got to remember, there's been a whole bunch accumulated over here. Now it's blowing back around. So sulfur pollution, SO2, in the inhabited areas for the next 48 hours. Again, that looks mainly offshore here in terms of the concentration there on this map, which is a good thing. So, I mean, it's just continuing, folks. We'll have to watch this and see if it dies down. If it does, then that could mean that we'll get a recharge of the magma reservoir underneath the Svartsengi area, and then maybe a return to an eruption here in a couple weeks. But for now, things are flowing freely with very little blockage or inflation going on there across the area. It's just flowing freely. But we'll continue to watch that. What do we got here across Japan? 4.3 coming in. This is the area that's seen that excuse me, I think it's that area that's seen that 7-pointer back on the first of the year. Got a 4.3 coming in right now. At least the USGS reporting that right now. I think it was up here on the map prior to that. Yep. All right, what else we got here? 3-pointer coming into the area of the Mediterranean right now as well. So yeah, we'll just continue to watch that. Definitely get some activity out in the northern Atlantic divergent zones. Very active, it looks like, here in certain areas. All right, let's see what else we got for space weather activity. I know things have been kicking up there recently in terms of complex sunspots. Definitely getting some consistent C-flare activity. Almost consistent up in the M-flare category. Not quite, but occasionally we'll see that. And then the potential chances of X-flares go up once that happens. But right now, seen a slow, gradual rise here in the instability that's being produced there from these sunspots. Let's take a look at these and see what's going on. 3615 here. Been keeping my eye on you. Yeah, wow, this thing is definitely deepening in terms of the darkness of these colors, indicating rapid progression there in complexity. Let's take a look at the visible disk. Look at that. That is a huge sunspot. It should be easy to spot here as well with a solar telescope or a solar lens on your camera. That is a dynamic sunspot, and I think that's going to pose a little threat here for some stronger flaring once it decides to. There's a UV filter ray showing some current flaring going on there, but I think it's noteworthy to watch it pretty closely here because it's quite complex. 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 45, X flare around 5% chance or so. Excuse me. And that is because of the Beta Gamma Delta class that 3615 harbors. And again, that's a decent looking sunspot. Here's from last night. If you look at today's image here, definitely some deepening of these colors, broadening of the ranges around those colors. So got to watch that. This area up here is still somewhat dynamic, not quite though. Could still produce some flaring. And a couple areas behind these regions continue to show some type of growth. Not a whole lot, but I think the main area is this one right here. And the direct position of the sunspot, mostly right across the equator here of the sun, puts it in a dangerous, hazardous area in terms of being geo-effective to the Earth. So if we get a major X-flare and a subsequent CME, that will be certainly certainly Earth-directed. There's a little bit of flaring currently going on there across the sunlit side of the Earth, affecting mainly high frequency and low frequency navigation systems there. And that's only from a C flare, but you got to remember the specific location here, directly looking at Earth. That's why it's having an effect so strongly, even with a C flare. All right, there's our G1 storm that kicked up there not last night, but the night before. Kind of kicked up slightly. Really nothing major in the forecast for now. Maybe some slight unsettled conditions here over the next couple nights, but really no major events going on in terms of CME activity. There is that coronal hole, number 12. Possibly we could see in the coming days a little enhancement to the 3-day geomagnetic forecast, but we'll keep an eye on that. But for now, keeping an eye on 3615. That is a interesting looking sunspot. As far as severe weather goes here, looks like the extreme bottom of Florida here is seeing a slight risk for some severe weather. You wouldn't notice it unless you looked really closely here, but that does include areas around Key West and Key Largo area, mainly due to a 5% chance of some tornado activity. There's also a 2% zone there, a little bit further up north, and also here across the Panhandle area of Florida region. Some wind and also some hail threats in there as well, but looks like the main case for the severe weather is going to be the 5% chance for tornado probability. West Coast, here comes our rain. There's some of that storminess going on there across Florida. I'll put this into motion here, and got a real quick shot of rain here this afternoon here where I'm at outside of Chico. Pretty unsettled here over the next few days. It looks like a little bit bigger system coming in as we head towards the middle of next week. And next weekend, that's a pretty decent looking storm there as well for Friday. And behind that, another one maybe. We'll have to keep an eye on it. There is, oh man, that's not looking good. This is close, very close to the eclipse date, April 7th. But April 8th is when the eclipse is going to take place. And I don't like that, because if we have this amount of moisture up here, that could block out and obscure the total eclipse across all the areas that are expected to see the total eclipse within that line of totality. So we'll have to check back on that. This is a ways out there, but I'm hoping these models don't bring in a bunch of rain out here, because it's a huge event. A lot of people already set up for it. A lot of tourists coming into the area. Either way, I'll be out there regardless if it's raining or not. I do want to experience the totality, regardless of cloud cover. I'd rather have it sunny, but guess we'll see how it goes in the days ahead. We'll check out the forecast as we get closer to that date. Small little spike of an earthquake there on Mount St. Helens. Nothing big going on there. All right, folks, enjoy your Friday. Stay safe out there, and we'll catch you guys back out here just a little bit later this evening, unless something major happens between now and then. You never know. Have a good one, folks. Take care.